Hello and welcome to this Friday meditation session. And to say a few words preparing us for the meditation, um, the phrase for today is that Samadhi is sweetness. That Samadhi has a kind of sweet quality to it. And maybe in case the word sweetness doesn't have such positive associations with you as it does for me, there are other words that speak to the goodness that comes with Samadhi. It can be, there can be a feeling of beauty and feelings of beauty that come with it. More classically, people talk about there being joy, gladness, happiness, sometimes bliss. A more simple and maybe a little more humble way of saying the same words is there can be pleasure. That Samadhi involves pleasure. That something starts becoming very pleasant as the state of Samadhi begins to develop. And at first it might be something very specific, like there might be a feeling of pleasure and that seems to radiate or come with the experience of breathing. Sometimes the experience of breathing can feel like it's just beautiful. There's a beauty to it. It could be that there's a tingling and warmth and joy, maybe kind of similar to what would happen if you had a half smile and a little bit of, turn up the corners of your mouth. There might be a little bit of kind of delight, that physical delight that appears maybe in the eyes or in the cheeks or someplace. So this idea of, I'm calling it sweetness today, and that sweetness can start to be pervasive. And the sweetness becomes a feedback loop where we feel the sweetness of Samadhi and allowing yourself to feel that. And we're allowed to feel it. We're allowed to feel the pleasure, the joy that comes with Samadhi. And we're allowed to feel it. And it becomes kind of a biofeedback that goes on where we feel it, and it can be there to help us to stay focused, keep doing what we're doing so we can keep growing and developing. And then the second thing to say before we start now, in the Chinese, when Buddhism arrived in China and they had to translate Indic Buddhist texts into Chinese, the way that they translated samatha vipassana, samadhi vipassana, is concentration. They use the word stop, and for vipassana, insight, they use the word see. So together, the practice of samatha vipassana is to stop and see. So there's something about samadhi that does involve a kind of a stopping, and a stopping which is a relief, a stopping which is pleasant. This feels good. Oh, I'm here. I don't have to do anything anymore. I don't have to keep accomplishing or proving myself, or I don't have to finish my to-do list. I don't have to, for these minutes of meditation of Samadhi, it's a radically alternative way of being alive, fully alive, here, without needing to accomplish anything. Just to be here. Let everything, all the accomplishing, doing, activities, stop. So with that, to assume a meditation posture that is in a way the beginning of stopping. A clear sense that now we're not going to be doing the activities of daily life. It's a time for a sacred pause, for something that's more important, invaluable. And maybe you can feel the relief of stopping to just be in this posture. And for these minutes in meditation, the only person who is going to be talking is me. So for all of you, you can stop the ordinary, maybe, activity of talking. And so something gets quiet. Maybe it feels like a relief, or maybe not. And there can be appreciating stopping of needing to think about things and solve things. And to feel the relief that now nothing needs to be accomplished, including accomplishing meditation. And to feel the relief, the goodness of just being alive as you are. And is there somewhere inside some sweetness, some goodness, some maybe very subtle pleasure somewhere for just simply being alive and awake and present? And then gently breathing in a deeper way to feel your body more fully. And as you exhale, to relax. Relaxing the body. And relaxing is more a stopping of something than a doing of something. It's the stopping of being tense, of holding the muscles tight. And as you relax the body, if there's anything that approaches pleasure in that relaxing, in the midst of the relaxing, feel that pleasure or feel that goodness. Letting your breathing return to normal. And as you breathe in, feel some place in your body that's tight. The muscles are tense a little. And gently on the exhale, soften, relax. If it doesn't relax, soften around it. Make space for it. And if there's any subtle pleasure in that or relief in that, just feel that. And if there is now any feeling of sweetness or goodness, relief or pleasure, just sitting here without needing to accomplish anything, just being here. allow your breathing to be in the middle of that sweetness, breathing with it, through it. And in a way that you stay with a natural enough breathing. If there's any small, tiny ways you can adjust your breathing so that it's more pleasant, there's more pleasure in any part of the breathing. Or if there's already some pleasure in breathing, feel it. Some people will feel certain pleasure, goodness, or relief during the exhale. Some people in the inhale. Some people in the pause, if there is a pause, at the end of the exhale. As you breathe, breathe with whatever pleasure, sweetness there might be here. Maybe one that's very closely related to doing almost nothing. The relief, the pleasure of just being. Just being with something so simple and fundamental as breathing. For some people, the pleasure might come from the gentle rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Maybe like being comforted, gently rocking in a rocking chair. And sometimes the sweetness related to breathing is just beyond the edges of the sensations of breathing. So in the body, maybe almost like radiating from breathing, the influence that breathing has in the areas close in around what is moving as you breathe. The area of space, spaciousness. Maybe the spaciousness that's here has a kind of pleasure or relief, has space for joy. if you need to let go of your thinking and relax your thinking mind, let go so that awareness drops into the sweetness in your body connected to the meditation. Relax the thinking mind to feel the pleasure of relaxing and letting the thinking mind be quiet so that you can better feel the sweetness of being present here and now, breathing one breath at a time. And if there's anything that resembles sweetness, pleasure, contentment, as you're sitting, as you're meditating, let that be an encouragement for the mind to be quieter and the body to be more open to the experience of breathing and the experience of sweetness, however subtle. There's an art to feeling the sweetness, the goodness that's here. And within it, allowing whatever is not sweet, not pleasant, to float, to be there in the background, to not zero in or fixate on what is difficult, but allow it to float in a wider ocean of the sweetness of meditation that's gently massaged or by the breathing. And then as we come to the end of the sitting, to feel whatever sweetness, goodness, calm, relief, pleasure, contentment, well-being, however small, to sense and feel into how it is right now for you in your body, your heart, your mind. Maybe having some sense that it can radiate out into the spaciousness, the space around you, even if it's just an inch beyond your body. That somehow imagine that your goodness, your sweetness, is something that you can transmit to others. Not what you say, not what you do, but how you are. To share the sweet feelings you have, letting it radiate out into the world. And imagine that's your gift today to the world. Whatever goodness, whatever pleasure, well-being that comes from meditation, comes from being mindful and present. May that be a gift that somehow is transmitted, somehow radiated out into the world for the people that you'll encounter. May it be that how you are today is for the welfare and happiness of others and for your own. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Thank you. So, welcome to this 15th talk on Samadhi, in this ongoing Samadhi series. And one of the things that this week perhaps you would have noticed is how seldom I use the word concentration. And in the kind of phrase that I use for each day this week, the quality that's being emphasized is not concentration. So Samadhi is simplicity. Samadhi is settledness. Samadhi is steadiness. Samadhi is spaciousness, and today Samadhi is sweetness. And so maybe the closest thing to concentration in those five is steadiness. But to be steady with your presence, be steady in your in your awareness, to be steady here with the practice. And these five qualities don't have to be separate. They can be part of the same state that we're in. We can be sitting in a state of simplicity, where meditation is not something complicated, not an engineering feat, it's not a complicated thing to do. It's almost like an undoing, a not doing, more than it is a doing. And that it is a settling into something and not a concentrating on something. And it might be that the consequence of settling is that we settle so fully in a relaxed, full way that the world around the place we settle kind of falls away or recedes into the distance. And it's almost as if we're concentrating on the settled place, but rather than poking it from the control tower, it's more like we've settled into it like we would settle into a nice soft mattress, or on top of a mattress bed there's a nice comforter that we lay down in. It just feels so good to settle into that. And we're fully, completely here in that small little world where the body touches the comforter in the bed and the rest of the world falls away. You could say we're concentrated there, but to concentrate on that experience, and for some people immediately gets us tense, to strain, or gets us in the control tower. But to settle into it becomes something that becomes embodied, something that includes the whole body. It's a fullness of it. This steadiness, holding steady. There's something in us that I think loves being steady. It's kind of like a commitment or a devotion or a simplicity of being, just this. Because when we're steady, something can relax into it, settle into it. I love to go hiking, and there's sometimes as we go hiking, used to be this when I went run, used to run. If I just keep walking steadily, at some point, kind of something settles in me. I arrive, and I'm just there in the walking, steady in the walking. But I have to walk steadily for the gathering of all the different parts of myself, where the distracted mind, concerns of the day fall away. And I'm just steady. It's kind of like the steadiness allows something to gather around it. Spaciousness is such an important quality for Samadhi, because to have a sense of being spacious, open, lots of openness, makes room for the sweetness that can arise in Samadhi. And maybe some of you don't care for the word sweetness, but in Samadhi, there is a pleasure. There is a sense of well-being. There is, for me, one of the most wonderful words for the state of Samadhi is beauty. There's a feeling of a beautiful state that kind of radiates out. Or the breathing has gotten quite beautiful, and it kind of radiates a sense of beauty into the body. The most classic way of talking about it is there's joy and happiness. Some people add the word gladness, so it's kind of like each of those is a deeper and fuller experience that's more and more satisfying. And some people use the word satisfy. There's a feeling of satisfaction. It's really good here. And some people maybe like the word goodness. This feels good. Sometimes I've liked the word health, because the settling into a good state of Samadhi feels like an embodiment of health. Even at times when I've been sick, if I could settle into samadhi, a samadhi state, it just feels like there's this healing energy that courses through the body. It just feels so good. The healthiness, the health of it. So, so I'm not saying that this is easy, and I'm not saying that it should happen today or tomorrow, but this is one of the characteristics of samadhi. And so as we settle into it, the practice, it's good to start becoming sensitive, aware when some of these good feelings begin to arise. These are good feelings which are symptoms of samadhi. And one of the interesting things in the teachings of the Buddha is that he puts happiness as a precursor for samadhi. And it's a little bit odd to say that because many people are suffering a lot, and they're meditating in order to not suffer so much, or to be free of their suffering, to work through it. And now to have samadhi, you have to be happy to begin with. But we always have the mindfulness practice to fall back to. And for 5 years now on YouTube, the primary practice I've been teaching is mindfulness. So for those of you who've been following, you can always, the recourse is to go back to just being mindful of the experience until something settles and you feel like you're able to be present with what's happening in a simpler way. And then you can develop this quality of samadhi, this primary focus. And a lot of samadhi has to do with having a primary focus of attention, a primary place to settle, a primary place to be at home in, to relax into, and is this kind of being absorbed. And the idea is moving into a kind of to be absorbed in the experience. And maybe you could have as a reference point something you do in your life that you get absorbed enough into that you feel a kind of well-being in doing it. All the difficult thoughts and difficult feelings that are in life have fallen away as we do this simple thing that you get absorbed in doing. For some people it's reading a book. Some people it's doing a craft or playing an instrument. Some people it feels really just going into a shower. Lets everything else fall away and just nice to be in the shower. And some people start singing in the shower. It might be being with a friend that does that, and they walk in the park, or listening to music for some people can do it. So might be something that you already do that gives you a sense of what it's like to have these qualities of this week of simplicity, becoming simple, just to listen to the music, just to do this one thing, where there's a settledness in it, where we're not preoccupied and agitated by other things, just here with this, where there's a steadiness, an absorption like this here, and that there's a spaciousness around it, because we're not limited ourselves in some kind of tight way, but we're relaxing into, and something opens as we get. And sometimes with samadhi, things will get smaller and more narrow first before the spaciousness opens up. So don't look for spaciousness too early, just when it starts becoming available. And then partly I'm choosing the word sweetness because it has an S in it to be complete for the week. I think that if I wasn't for the wanting to stay with S's, I probably would have chosen beauty for myself. So, these are some of the characteristics of samadhi, and not necessarily easy to tap into or touch into, but they can be very subtle. And if we have already a disposition in the mind to orient ourselves to what's difficult, orient ourselves around our problems, ourselves around the pain we have or something, sometimes inadvertently, that's actually where the samadhi is going. That's where the concentration is going, to those things. And if we go concentrate on things this way, where there's fear or aversion or something that is not so healthy, that focus on the problems actually can make the difficulty feel worse. Not to ignore it, but it's possible to, with samadhi, to shift the primary focus to breathing, to the settling place, to settle, to keep settling, and knowing that you're not betraying the difficulties you have, but you're placing them in a different context. And it's really a delight to be able to sit in a state of samadhi, state of goodness, state of health, where the difficulties we have might be they're just like jellyfish floating in the vast ocean. They aren't the ocean. And so they're there and they're recognized, but they're being held by the goodness of samadhi. So finally, I'd like to say that for next week I won't be here, and I think Kim Allen will come, and I think it's Kim will come and teach for you. We have these wonderful teachers at IMC that can be my substitutes, and I should probably be sure about this, so that just out of respect for my co-teachers, that I have it right. Here we go. Oh no, I'm sorry. Next week it's Liz Powell, and a wonderful teacher, and lives in Colorado now, and delighted that she's going to be here with you all. So, so in the meantime, if the beginning of the week I encourage you to count your breathing, because that can support the steadiness, and it can support all these qualities, provided you find a really nice way for the mind to do the counting. Gentle, soft, beautiful, settled, spacious. See if you can find a way to count. And there are different ways of counting as I described. But if you find yourself being able to settle into the counting, you might see if counting from 1 to 10 and then starting over again begins to support the settling in, the steadiness that really brings you starting getting absorbed in this experience of breathing, of samadhi. And I'll be back the following week, and I look forward to this quite a bit, to continue this. And now, if those of you who would like, we're going to have a Zoom meeting for our community, and what that means is that I'll put a Zoom link into the. I'm going to try to put a Zoom link in. Let's see if I can. See, it's a little bit. Here we go. I'm having a little bit of trouble figuring out how to manage. Oh, here, to put it in the chat. I don't know why that's a challenge today. Somehow my YouTube channel is not showing it. If someone could go and get the the link, the Zoom link from the calendar or what's new, and put it in the chat. I would appreciate it a lot. And it'll take me a minute or two to be able to make it to the Zoom room myself. And if you need it, you need a password to get into it. And the password is metta, Pali word for loving kindness. So M-E-T-T-A, M-E-T-T-A. And and I'll be there shortly. Thank you. And those of you who'd like to stay in the Zoom, don't want to go to the, stay in the YouTube, can stay here. I won't turn it off. And then you can just, you can listen and be part of it. And if we do a breakout group, I can kind of be looking at your chat a little bit. And so I don't see anyone putting the YouTube link in the chat. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Cindy. So now it's there, and I'll be there shortly. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So let me see. Can there's a lot of people who. So it's the best. So can you hear me? Yes, wonderful. Oh, so I'm. Oh, I know what I have to do. The technology of all this. Okay. No, that's not what I want to do. And I want to go this. Okay. Okay. So you can hear me again? So I left the YouTube on, and so on my computer, so the YouTube channel volume was on, so I was hearing myself. And so now we're just a regular Zoom, and the people who have stayed on YouTube should be able to hear and watch me at least. So it's best, I think, given so many people, that you keep yourself muted unless you're going to speak. And so I think what we'll do today is I'll take some questions, hear from some of you, and we'll do a breakout group. And at some point there, maybe before we do the breakout group, I have some announcements to make, and that's relevant for us. And then we'll do the breakout group, and maybe time for more questions. And the function of the breakout groups is just for a chance, maybe it's somewhat random, but the chance for some of you to meet each other and have some personal conversations. Some of you have been chatting daily, sometimes on YouTube, and it's been lovely to see the warmth and the friendship and the care that goes into some of those chats as you communicate with each other. So happy to have you here, all of you. And is anyone who'd like to ask a question or make a comment? And ideally, they'd be somewhat brief, and so we can have some more chance for more people to speak. And the easiest way to do this, I think, is if you could raise your Zoom hand, because there's more tiles. I won't be able to see everyone's physical hand going up. But if you could do your, raise your hand, and if you don't know how to do that, some Zoom accounts have on the menu at the bottom of it, there says raise hand. Sometimes you have to go to the reaction bar and find it, I think. So, Captain, how nice. Delighted to see you. So, let's see, I can't, oh no, I have to try saying it again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
now?
yes, I will.
Well, thank you to Gil, to you, and to everybody else. I live in the middle of the woods, so this is a very special community for me to feel connected. I will try to keep it brief. When I first got back into meditating like a year and a half or so ago, I often felt more relaxed and calmed by the end, which was a lovely feeling. And now I notice that a lot of the time, first of all, it's much harder for me to settle. But also by the end of it, I often find that I'm experiencing more of the hindrance of restlessness and worry rather than less. Like it sort of amps up over the session. And I feel like there must be something that I'm doing to sort of engage it during the sit, but I haven't been able to figure out what. So I was wondering just if you had any thoughts or any suggestions or anything like that. And thank you.
Yes, thank you, Captain. The general way that I view these things is that many people, when they start meditating, there's often beginner's luck. There's a kind of excitement. There's more focus because it's new and exciting, and so people will. Let me hang on here. People will get, so people can get pulled in a little bit quickly. The other thing that can happen is that we're practicing well enough that we're dropping into a deeper level of the mind in our psychology, and now it's time that something has to be addressed. The analogy I use is if you go into, you move into a house that people who lived there before you never cleaned for decades. And so the first thing you do is you can manage to, in order to get in there, you have to clean the entry hallway, and after you get it really clean, it's nice, it's easy to walk through, and you say, oh, this is good. And then you open the door to the living room, and this is like, this is terrible. Or how could it be so much to be done? But actually, you're making progress. You've taken care of one thing, and now you have to take care of the next room. And many of us have a number of rooms that have been unattended and a little bit messy, that as we settle, we're coming to that next. So that maybe makes it a little bit easier to have a more positive view of the challenge you have. Sooner or later, everyone who meditates will be up against some challenge where they think they're going backwards. and it's not, I like to think we never go backwards. And then the question is, how do you address this and meet this? And one way is to not be so concerned about the issue you had, the way you described it, but rather what is your relationship to the issue? And that might be the key thing to focus on. There's all kinds of secondary arrows we add to it. That's more important to look at than the actual issue itself. And if the second arrows stop, then it might be fine to sit there with the challenge, not so troubled by it. And then maybe you can see it more clearly. The other thing is you call it a hindrance, and we have these 5 hindrances that we do. And so you might want to go through carefully the 5 hindrances and see which one of them seems to be operating, or which ones. Some people have multiple hindrance attacks. So you might have to kind of see the number of ones. But the first thing that occurred to me as you described, there might be some degree of doubt playing itself out. And so doubt is one of the hindrances. And so if you want to learn more about the hindrances, in my teachings, I have this book called Unhindered that goes through them. And I think I did do 5 days a week on the hindrances in December. And maybe it was a preparation for this series on Samadhi. So is that okay for now, Captain? Give you something?
Yes, thank you so much. And actually, I just got your book for the holidays. I'm excited to read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Feather.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And it's so wonderful to see all these faces around the world. So, Gil, I love how at the end of every meditation you invite us to send goodwill to all people and all beings, and that no one is excluded. And that really, really helps me settle. And I find that in my loving kindness, metta, it's quite easy for me to do that when I'm sitting, to send care to everyone. Yet at the same time, I'm finding it really difficult these days to witness suffering in humans and in animals when what I perceive is injustice and everything that's happening in the world. And I'm super sensitive and I get activated so easily by hurt. And so I'm finding myself asking friends to not talk to me about politics and to stay away from news and TV and social media and basically just be with my horse and be in this community and just shut it all out. So I'm wondering if you can maybe say a word or two about how to practice with that.
Yeah.
With that sensitivity to the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think the first thing to do is to be very caring and respectful for how you are with all this. Without starting there, there's not going to be much. And so, so what is it since you started with the way I do the dedication at the end of the sitting, to say that what is it that, given this challenge you're describing, what in you needs loving kindness and compassion? And, maybe it's premature to do it for all beings. Something in you needs to be attended to first. And the chances are there's something unresolved in you that needs to be recognized, met, loved, cared for, understood. Because what you're describing, I don't know you except for this description you gave, but I've seen very, very many times that when people have this level of difficulty, let's see, if people don't have their microphone on mute, I put it on speakerphone, on speaker view when someone's asking a question, and then I lose them if someone has the microphone on. Yeah, so no. Okay, so So this so someone has something unresolved deep inside, then the suffering of the world touches that unresolved place, and it's kind of like putting a magnifying glass on something, a magnifying glass on the suffering of the world, or a magnifying glass on our own heart, the unresolved emotional issues that are there. And so they need to be cared for, loved, attended to in a wise, caring way. And sometimes just sitting in meditation and being really present for these unresolved places of suffering is a way forward to kind of work with it. But sometimes that's a slow process, and maybe not. What's needed is to get some kind of ongoing support from a loving, caring person who can really attend and support you and accompany you into this territory. And generally in the modern world, it would mean some form of therapy, whether it's a regular therapist. I put a lot of value on somatic therapy, because generally somatic therapy is a way that uses the body to be present for these unresolved things that is very akin to what we do in mindfulness practice. And sometimes it's not necessarily a therapist. It might be a pastoral counselor that maybe feels a little bit more, if you have a spiritual orientation, kind of makes a different context for the work. So those are my thoughts. Does that, do you want to ask anything more or say more so that I can understand better?
It's touching a deep place, so I appreciate that. I mean, I wonder if many people do therapy. I just actually stopped because this format here is just touching me in such a deeper way. So.
Uh-huh. Well, great. So maybe stick to this process now, and maybe give it a chance for a while and see how it develops. And what I told Captain might be relevant for you too. That maybe there's something really deeper in you that you're going to get in touch with that might be difficult for you as you move into this new room that you haven't attended to. And so the first thing you want to look at in this practice, mindfulness practice, is not the difficulty there, but rather how you're relating to it. Do you recoil from it? Do you blame someone? Do you get afraid and close down? One of my kind of, if I'm feeling, one interesting question is, when you're tired, hungry, overwhelmed, and you have no wisdom, how do you react to your challenges? And so for me, I think my go-to kind of strategy in those kind of circumstances is the ostrich approach. I just like want to put my head in the sand and just kind of pretend nothing is there for a while. So what's yours? How do you relate to it? And so
This is super helpful, and one last thing I'll say is one thing that's comforting is maybe the way I react is different, but I don't feel alone in the world with the political situation, all this what's going on around us, that I'm struggling. So that feels good to feel belonging and not alone. So thank you.
And at some point, what we can develop and grow in this practice here is not a Pollyannish view of difficulties and injustice. We want to be able to address them and see them and feel them, but we feel more comfortable with feeling the discomfort of it all. We're more at ease. We find a certain freedom in being present to feel it. It doesn't have to cause us distress. It just breaks our hearts and motivates us, but it doesn't have to be a problem for us personally. But it's also not denying it. It's not ignoring it. But it's a way of we're developing our capacity to be fully present for the challenges in the world, so we can make a difference without being overwhelmed. Okay, thank you. So there's two more people with their hands up. We'll take those, hear from those two people, and then we'll do a breakout group for those who'd like to do that. So, Wendy.
Hi, Gil. Thank you. I want to incorporate more forgiveness in my practice. I heard the Dharma talks on forgiveness, and I've done the forgiveness meditations, but what I'm looking for is maybe more or just other ways to forgive others and myself, and even those, who don't know that they've done something when, and I'm holding a grudge,
Uh-huh.
what to do. Maybe more, you know, um, I guess what I'm looking for is more of a action related meditation. Like when I'm, when I'm watching my thoughts, what to do.
Great. Well,
Thank you.
well, this is it's a very welcome question you're asking. I put a tremendous amount of appreciation value for this desire to address the challenges of our life with forgiveness. So I want to appreciate that first. And I'd like to, rather than answering your question directly, which maybe would be the thing to do, I'd like to offer you the more classic Buddhist response to the same situation. Because generally in Buddhism, in Indian Buddhism, the kind of Buddhism that I base my teachings on, there's not really an emphasis on forgiveness. The way that it's understood in the West, in the Western culture, where forgiveness is deeply embedded, it comes out of the theistic religions and relationships to God and religion and the need for forgiveness. That Indian religion doesn't have the same worldview. So when the challenges you're describing, what Buddhism offers might look like forgiveness, might have the same effect, but it doesn't involve forgiveness. What it involves is letting go of one's own anger, resentment, that's one, and the other is to cultivate loving kindness, goodwill. And those two things do almost the same thing as forgiveness, except we're not actually forgiving, condoning what someone has done. We let that be their karma. And we're just telling them, we're no longer going to hold it against you with my anger or resentment. I'm going to meet you with goodwill, but you're responsible for your actions and the consequences, and I'll hold you and support you or just be with you in a kind way. But I'm not here to say that what you did can be now that you're exonerated from the challenge you did. But I'm just simply not going to hold it against you, and I'll meet you with goodwill. So that's for some people, that makes the whole idea of forgiveness a lot easier to switch the orientation. So I don't know if this satisfies you, since I'm not answering your question, Wendy, but can that give you something to think about?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So then, Charlie.
Hi, Gil. Thank you so much for your online meditations. They help my life very much, and I hope to meet you someday. I live in Colorado, and I've been trying to get to one of those retreats. They're kind of hard to get to. My question would be about Samadhi. Really appreciate the recent Samadhi teachings, and there's two things that I've learned to fold into my meditation over the years that help me to settle and expand my awareness. And they're both not the breathing. And so I just wonder about your comment on them. One is that I use sound, what I hear. It feels like it's less inside me, and I'm more connected with the world. when I use sound as the object of meditation instead of the breathing. And I've been using the breathing for a really long time, and so that's there too, just automatically, habitually. It's part of the meditation, but I tend to use sound as my focus, and that sometimes can be distracting. I sit in my living room in front of a big picture window. It looks out to the street, but I find that it helps me to feel more present by being connected with the here and now when I'm with the sound. And the other thing is metta. Over the years, I've realized that just being with the breathing sometimes, I just there's a boredom or like a lack of purpose or something. When I start meditation with metta or include an aspect of that, just not necessarily one of the contemplations, but something really light, just like connection, the purpose, my bodhisattva vow, and bring that into my meditation and use that to settle my mind. Those two things are what I tend to do.
Great.
And so I know it's kind of, sometimes it feels like there's I have all these options and it's a little much, and I know the breath is so simple, and sometimes I come back to just that.
Great.
But that's how I tend to settle and work with Samadhi, and those two things seem to work better for me. So I just wonder about your guidance on working with those things.
Great, thank you. So first, I'd like to say that yes, there are people for whom there are better objects or focuses of meditation than breathing, and especially if you've done one for a long time, you're welcome to continue with that. And as we go go further with the Samadhi practice, I'll keep referring to breathing, but you could welcome to translate it into these other practices you're doing. I think that you can probably, without much effort, translate it in, every time I say breath, say sound, for example, or metta. And one approach is to do these means that you have for developing your concentration, being settled. And when you're feeling really settled, then switch. Don't start with breath, but pick it up once you're really settled, and then you might find that it actually supports you to go further into the Samadhi than what you're already doing. About 20 years ago or so, there was a trend where insight meditation teachers would always begin, when they did guided meditations on retreats and stuff, always begin with doing listening meditation like you're doing. And some people find it very helpful because you can't interfere with the sound. You can't make it better sound. You can't react to it. You don't get entangled with it in the way some people do with their breathing. So it's a way of being spacious and allowing, and very open. So it can be very nice. There was a time when we emphasized that a lot. And metta is a classic one in our tradition for developing concentration, and some people will start every meditation with 5-10 minutes of metta in order to get somewhat settled and concentrated and to create a good atmosphere in the mind, good attitude for doing the practice. So, but I still have myself into an orientation to something like breathing, because some point or other, the orientation to listen to sounds, the sounds begin receding away, and you want to be able to keep staying focused on something that's more basic. And breathing in the body tends to remain as we go into Samadhi. Sounds can usually disappear entirely at some point in deeper Samadhi. And metta becomes, depends how you're doing metta, but certainly if you're using metta phrases, they at some point become a little bit too coarse, and the phrases have to go away as well. And then you're dropping into the body to feel the radiance of the metta rather than the mental side of it. So there is a way of working with all of this. I hope my words kind of address your questions well enough.
Yes, great. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. So I'd like to make an announcement, just because I think some of you won't stay for the breakout groups. And that is that some of you might remember about 2 or 3 years ago, at the, at the beginning of the Ukraine war, we did a fundraising drive for Save the Children, one of the preeminent nonprofits doing humanitarian work, that in order to support their effort to work with the children affected by the Ukrainian war at the beginning of that war. And it was the main thing we had at IMC back then, because it was during the pandemic, was the YouTube community. And it was very successful, very inspiring. We raised something like $70,000 to give to the Save the Children. And now we would like to, at the time I thought we should do this once a year for something, but now I'd like to be able to do it again for Save the Children. And they have an emergency children's fund that goes to places in the world with the highest level of emergency for life and death issues that I thought would be really good to support. And right now, the two highest level places they're concerned about is now that is Gaza and also Sudan. And so I'd like to open up another one, IMC fundraising drive. What we do is we spend a week where we try to encourage that, and so we're going to do that, I think, in the middle of February, in a couple of weeks. And I'll say more, but I wanted to just use this community meeting as a chance to kind of talk a little bit about the history of this, how we've done this before, the good effect it had, and really speak well about Save the Children. They're a non-political group. They've been involved in some of the greatest crises in the world for the last something like 70 years or more, and they know what they're doing, and I think it's a wonderful group to support. And we've been in touch with them directly about this drive, this idea. So we're talking to them. We've had phone calls with them about it, about how we can participate and how to make sure that it works well for our community that we feel good about. So there'll be more information about that, but I wanted to let you all know. So what we're going to do is take, I'll make groups of 5, and we'll take about maybe 12 minutes for those groups of 5, and then we come back here for a little bit more. And what I'd like to ask you, as you go into your group, is maybe just talk a little bit about what it's been like for you to participate in this YouTube community and practice for the time you have, and maybe with a little emphasis on what it's been like with this Samadhi series. But what I'd like to ask is you don't say much. Make one point so that other people can speak. And the idea is to ideally you're able to go around your group of 5 kind of multiple times. So it becomes more of a listening exercise than a speaking exercise. Many people have a strong need to speak and want to say everything they could possibly say, that has a lot of value to an occasion. But for this format, I think what has the most value is to really have a chance to listen and hear and sense everyone by saying something relatively brief and then going around. And one advantage of these kinds of brief statements where it goes around and around is can be a marvelous way where as we hear other people's statements, it affects us. And after a while, we find ourselves, we're changed by it, and new things come out of us when we speak. Then we could never have imagined speaking if we just kind of explained everything about ourselves that we already know. So hopefully that works. And if you don't want to be in a breakout group, I would ask you to leave YouTube, and if you want to come back in 12 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, you're welcome to come back to the Zoom room. But to leave the Zoom now, because the reason for that is that otherwise you get assigned to a room and then the rooms get kind of skewed with how many people are there. So, okay, so I'm going to make, no, that's not right. That should be, okay, so it'll probably be, okay, so see how this goes. Okay, so, and the timing is 12 minutes, and here it goes. So if any of you are there behind your tiles, if you want me to help you to go to a group, I'll try to do that. But it looks like if you want to try to go, yes, some of you are going maybe, and if you go to the bottom menu and see breakout groups, maybe you'll find an invitation there to join. And I'm going to go to YouTube now. So there I am at YouTube. So those of you, is there anybody on YouTube watching? Let me see. We have 93 people watching now. So hello. So we have about 12 minutes. So if some of you would like to say something in the chat, there's about a 15-minute delay between what happens here at IMC and it appears on YouTube. It's not instantaneous. So if you put a chat in, it'll take a few seconds for me to see it. Nice. It's nice to see the names I see there. There we go. Okay. So I guess. So I've been wanting to inquire about any reference material that may be recommended to support Samadhi practice. Yeah, a good question. There are books about Samadhi. If you want a general survey of Samadhi in kind of our Buddhist tradition and some of the different ways it's taught, there's a book by Richard Shankman called The Experience of Samadhi that does a nice survey of it all, how it is in the teachings of the Buddha and elsewhere. And So that might be, kind of a nice general place to begin. And so hello. I don't know where the Zoom link is. Thank you for, so the Zoom list. So, so nice to see the names. They're there. Kathy and Lorena, Pat and Jean. Nice to see your name, Jean, and your greeting. So we have 5 more minutes for the breakout groups. And
Late.
so so those of you on YouTube, and I think, let's see, there we go. Can you talk about flow versus samadhi? Just a second. Flow is can be part of samadhi, and generally in Buddhism, the flow part of samadhi is a relatively intermediate step of samadhi, where there's a strong sense of flow moving through us. The classic metaphor the Buddha gives for that is a mountain lake in which there's no water coming in from any river into it, and there's no rain entering but the water that comes into the lake is from an underground spring from deep in the lake, and the water's flowing up like a fountain, and that is spreading this refreshing water throughout the lake. And so that way, there's no input from the 5 senses coming in from the world around us, but the whole sense of flow and movement in meditation is a welling up from within of a nice flow of energy, of joy, of delight, of well-being that moves. But then as concentration gets stronger, samadhi gets deeper or fuller, then the sense of movement stops itself. It's no longer there. There's no sense of flow. It gets really, really still. So samadhi is a general term for these states. And within samadhi, there's different stages or different ways in its experience. And it tends to be a progressive, a deepening of samadhi, and flow is there first, and then there's a deeper stillness that happens. So let's see, we have 3 minutes left in with the Zoom room. I'll come back now to, great. Your comment about everyone feeling as if they're going backwards at some point was very important to me, because that's exactly how I was feeling. Thank you. That's nice. Yeah, I've learned that both from my own practice and being a teacher, supporting many people in this practice, that the key element is the sincerity of our practice. Trust the practice. And keep doing, especially mindfulness practice, just keep showing up for it, keep practicing it. And just trust the practice no matter what the ups and downs are. And any spiritual practice that's worthwhile to do will have ups and downs. And so the image I have for the ups and downs is it's a path that has got ups and downs, but you're still moving along the path. It's not you're going up a hill and then sliding down, up a hill and sliding down. You are moving ahead, even if it seems like you're going backwards. But that's just natural part of it. And the way to keep going is to trust the mindfulness, trust the practice, keep doing it. And if you find that something persists for a long time that really seems like a challenge, then you should probably find a teacher to ask questions of and help the teacher explore it. Help the teacher help you explore it. Are there any planned changes to the format or teachers for the 7 a.m. sessions? There's no plan for any change. The only thing would be that when I'm not here, then I have substitute teachers who come. And we have a big set of wonderful teachers here at IMC, so who will step in when they're able to. And the only change might be if for some reason I cannot come but cannot find a substitute. One option would be to, like for one day, if something happens and I can't come for some reason, I can pre-record that day and broadcast it, which would allow it to continue. Another would be that so it may be some I might on short notice not be able to find a teacher substitute for me, and then maybe the plan is to for the YouTube is to play an old recording, kind of do a rerun in a sense. So with this time is still happening, and people can come and join and participate, but it won't be live. But that's only in case there's an issue. But otherwise, we're planning to continue this. Perhaps an odd question. During practice earlier, feeling rather embodied, settled, I shifted to sweetness and sensed this question: where is sweetness? Or where is that feeling located? Seems like a good question. I wouldn't, having the question is wonderful. Searching for the answer might not be necessary. Sometimes it's just nice to have these Dharma questions arise, and it's part of the deeper process of something unfolding to have the question there, and just having the question might be enough for something to appear or something to continue. So I'm going to close the breakout groups. They have 60 seconds in the Zoom room, and see. Oh, so now they have 60 seconds. think we're back, everyone. And so welcome back. And I hope that was nice for you. And so what else would anybody like to bring up? Anything you'd like to discuss, or anything, questions, or maybe mention how that was to be in the breakout group, or the floor's open. And the idea is to continue until 8:45, so another 7 minutes or so. So Lou.
Well, yes. Hi, Gil, and thank you. And we were all very grateful that you have been online now for 4 or 5 years and available to us. I just wanted to mention what we have formed here in Nevada City, Nevada, Northern California. That is, there are about 10 of us locally who follow you and have been doing that for years. And we have formed our own Sangha. We meet weekly. We discuss your teachings. And it's provided an opportunity for us to share at a deeper level and also form a community that supports one another in times of need, and also just to provide an opportunity to listen and learn from one another. And your teachings have been the basis for our gathering. And so thank you very much. But also it's an example, I think, of what others could possibly do at the local level, given enough interest.
Wow, Lou, thank you. That was wonderful to hear. It's very gratifying to hear that kind of initiative, getting together and benefit. Yes, I know a few other people who meet together around these YouTubes and have discussions and share it with each other. So some people are lucky enough to be close by. Some people, people who don't have anybody nearby, we do have through IMC a Sunday after the Sunday morning talk. There's a Sunday morning Sangha that meets on Zoom, and so it's not the same as the YouTube exactly, but there's a lot of overlap. And you could probably sign up. You know, I think the link is there on the IMC calendar for the Sunday morning group that meets. Thank you. So someone else? Anything else that? Yes, yeah. So Debbie, it helps if you. I don't see all the tiles because there's 3 windows, but I see Debbie. So please.
Gil, you know how I feel about this group and everything that you offer at IMC. After I fell this week, a friend said, "Oh, Tantra Maja Tata." What is that?
Yeah, it's a word that's sometimes translated as equanimity, but it means more like balance. It's like it literally means something like in the middle of it all. So it means something like standing in the middle of it all, and be able to hold your balance in all the difficult challenges of daily life. And so it's equanimity has more to do with wisdom. We see equanimity means to have an overview. Literally means to have an overview of the situation that's wise. So we're not going to be reactive to it. Tatra Maja Tata, it means more that we have an inner strength to be able to stand there, be present, but we're not reactive because there's a strength of like standing there, like standing on a rocking boat, and you have the strength to stay balanced. You don't have any wisdom, but you have strength and balance.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. And deep love for you and all of you. And the breakout groups are super.
Wonderful. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
And Carissa.
First, I just want to say thank you so much, Gil. That was really, really beautiful. And I saw in the chat someone mentioning about doing it once a month or something, and I second that. But I just wanted to share that in our group, to feel the common humanity of the suffering that has brought us all here was very beautiful. And I felt so connected, and it felt like it felt like a place where all of our tiny little squares, like there's so much life in each one. And this is just, I don't know, a silly little example of something that I do to like feel common humanity when I'm feeling like I'm really suffering. Is that I imagine this person that I've named Lucy, who lives in Senegal. And when I'm hurting and when I'm feeling pain and when it becomes suffering, I imagine that she, this imaginary person, is feeling the exact same way and for her own situation, and that we're both in this suffering together, and we realize that there's common humanity with us, and we both send our spirit energy, our metta, to each other, and it kisses over the Atlantic Ocean and it comes back to us. And that's what I feel here. Like, I feel that, you know, we're all suffering and we all have this pain in different ways, and it may become suffering. And as we connect and, you know, then it can go back to each one of us because of this support in the Sangha. And so I really felt that in the breakout rooms, and I am really, really grateful. So thank you so, so much.
Carissa, that was wonderful to hear all of what you said. It was very meaningful, and to hear it and know that this orientation, this understanding is happening here in this community. And thank you very much. So thank you. And this idea of doing it once a month, I have this idea to do it more often, and my schedule is so full, it's a little hard, but I will. I've been thinking about it, and just hearing the request gives me a little bit more momentum to look for when it's possible to do it. And the other thing I was thinking about this morning was maybe for 1 week, if I can find a time in my schedule where my week allows for it, and we're doing the Samadhi series, I think sitting twice a day, as I've been encouraging you to do, is really useful when the focus is on Samadhi. That I thought that maybe I could host a YouTube sitting in California at 4:30 in California time for half an hour for the 1 week, like 5 days. And just to have 1 week, get the experience of coming together in community to do 2 sittings a day. So I'll look for my schedule and see if I can find that. And hopefully during the series there'll be a time. So thank you very, very much. Yes, Cindy?
Yeah, Gil, I just wanted to say, when Matthew was teaching for a week, we had a lot of discussion about grief and loss. And so he did a Zoom meeting for us, which is really great. And maybe some of the substitute teachers could, you know, do a day, because I think that's really meaningful to this group to see each other and have the exchange.
That's a great idea. I will recommend it to them. Thank you. Okay, so until next time, and you'll have Liz next week, and I'll be back the following week. Thank you. Bye-bye. And
Thank you,
Bye,
can,
everyone.
Thank you.
yeah, unmute.
Bye.
Love you, Sangha.
Thank you so much, everybody, and Gil.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Great seeing y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Good healing, Debbie. Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Be well, Debbie.
Bye, everyone. Blessings.
Blessings to you.
I'm glad I got to see you, Deborah. It's my hometown, Portland.
Margarita.
Bye. Okay. Ciao.
Okay, bye everyone.
Hey.
And for those of you on YouTube, thank you for being part of this, and I hope it was nice for you to to be part of this indirectly, and I hope you didn't feel left out. And put a link in the Save the Children Fund. You will do that when the time comes in a couple of weeks. We'll have a clear link, and that's IMC specific that to Save the Children. So that's coming, probably the week of something like the 14th, I think. So middle of February. Thanks. Bye-bye.